voting gets underway right now all across America. Americans going to the polls, casting their ballots. The first polls close in just 5 hours from now. We're going to be watching at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. Florida, for example, closing at 7. There's a razor-thin margin separating these candidates, so clearly the race could go either way. I'm Trish Regan. Welcome, everyone, to the Intelligence Report, a special Election Day edition. Here we are, voters flocking to the polls right now. More than 46 million Americans have already cast their votes, and the decision is going to boil down to turnout today. Can these candidates, with, let's face it, some pretty high negatives, get out the vote? It's all going to come out to turnout. Key battleground states, there's a handful of them, and we have team coverage across the country. Right now, Jeff Flock is outside a polling station in Ohio, where the lines have been long. Robert Gray is out west in Colorado, where a series of western states could be the deciding factor. I want to go to both of you, but let's begin in Ohio. Voters there braving some long lines to vote today. Polls closing in about 5 hours from now at 7:30. No Republican has ever won the presidency without winning Ohio. So, Jeff Flock, what are we in store for as you watch in Columbus?
We have had huge turnout all day. We're in a little bit of a post-lunch lull right now at the Tremont Elementary School here in Columbus. But it has been big turnout, and they're reporting that across the state. Take a look at Cuyahoga County. As you point out, Trish, turnout is huge. It's huge for both candidates. But in Cuyahoga County, they're now predicting between 67 and 70%. That would top what happened 4 years ago with President Obama in his reelection bid. And the Republicans are positive. They're feeling very positive. The chairman of the Cuyahoga County Republican Party says Donald Trump will get more votes from Cuyahoga than any other of the 87 counties in Ohio, and it will be Cuyahoga eventually driving a Trump win on Election Day. Important to note, Trish, that he's doing this, we think, without help from the Republican governor of Ohio, John Kasich, who wrote in the name John McCain as his candidate. You can't do that here in Ohio because he's not a certified candidate. It's a wasted vote. Other people would point out, while some are mad at Governor Kasich for that, other people say, what if he was the nominee? And he'd stayed on message the whole time. The economy, growth, and there hadn't been a bunch of foolishness. He'd win by 70-30, they think. Maybe. We'll see how it turns out.
Maybe. The one thing you got to hand Donald Trump is that he has managed to get out the vote in terms of rallying the base. And you know, we'll see what the autopsy looks like after and whether or not he wins or not. But this is one for the history books for sure. People will be writing about this for decades. And here we are living it today with all our viewers on the front lines. Jeff, thank you so much. All right, turning right now to the all-important state of Florida. And the story there, Hispanic voter registration, it is up by more than 453,000 votes, nearly doubling the 2012 level. Could that sink Donald Trump? Our Adam Shapiro has been on the ground in the Sunshine State for weeks, has been looking at all of this early voting data that's been coming in. What do you make of this one here, the idea that twice as many Hispanics have registered to vote, Adam?
Yes, well, the counter to that, Trish, would be that you've had an influx of people from the Midwest who are racially conservative white folk who have moved down to the western part and the southwestern part of Florida as well. So, yes, there is a surge of Latino and Hispanic voting. That's taking place, too, by the way, in Orlando and Orange County, as well as Broward, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach counties. But you really have to wait till we get to 7 p.m. here in Hillsborough County, 8 p.m. in the Panhandle. The Panhandle is strongly Republican territory. It's Donald Trump territory. But let me tell you why Tampa, where I am today, and why Hillsborough County is the bellwether and the key to Florida. Twice in this county, voters have selected George Bush. And twice in this county, voters have selected President Obama. So this county is the bellwether because as it goes, Florida goes. And here's what's happening right now in Hillsborough County. We have roughly 63% voter turnout. That's everything from early voting to mail-in ballots to the people voting today. In 2012, the turnout was 72%. So I was speaking to different sources, and I got a statement from the Republican chairman of the Republican Party of Florida. And what Blaise Ingoglia told me is that although you see this surge of Latino voters in other parts of the state, quote, we're also seeing Republicans turn out in force today in the state of Florida, including including Hillsborough County. We expect that the Democratic ballot lead will be erased by this evening. And that lead he's talking about, as I wrap up, is the lead going into this morning. Democrats had a roughly 150,000 vote lead in early voting by mail and by early polling station.
All right, Adam Shapiro, thank you so much. All right, I want to move west right now to Colorado and to Nevada, both which will be closely watched tonight. Both states critical to Donald Trump's path to 270 electoral votes. Joining me right now with a preview is Robert Gray in Denver. Robert, how's it looking?
Hey, Trish, very busy out here. 9 electoral votes up for grabs in the Centennial State. Now, keep in mind, this is the first presidential election that people were actually mailed their ballots. So balloting has been underway for about 2 weeks now. In fact, physical balloting in this vote place where we are right now, which is one of about 24 in the Denver area. You can see folks, though, still coming in. Quite busy in here. Hundreds of people have already come in to cast their ballots, either by paper, and they also have tablets here as well. You should also keep in mind what's interesting about Colorado. You can actually register to vote and vote today on Election Day. And you can also vote anywhere in Denver County, not just in the precinct where you live. Now, the counting is going to begin in less than an hour's time in the counting room, which Frank is showing you right now. They'll also be counting those ballots that were mailed in. Some of them are also being dropped outside. They have a drive-through outside, Trish, to help people drop off their ballots on their work. They have several police officers out there as well as election officials. Keep in mind, these ballots will be scanned. There's a tripartisan paid election judge committee at each terminal, basically. That means one Democrat, one Republican, and of course one independent. Independents make up the largest voting bloc here in Colorado. And if you see thumb drives on there, well, I'm told the computers will shut down if a thumb drive is inserted into that slot. Quick look now at early voting. I mentioned the mailed ballots now. Early voting, about 69% of those have been returned. Slightly more Republicans than Democrats, but keep an eye on that independent bloc. They haven't returned their ballots in as large of numbers, and they are the biggest bloc. So that's going to determine what happens. Also, we should say very robust voting. They have outpaced the national average in 2012. 2.22 million have voted early. That's almost matching last time's 2.57 million total. So very active balloting here in Colorado. Trish, back to you.
All right, Robert, thank you so much. Early indications, everyone, showing few problems for voters at the polls, save for, a few sporadic machine problems here and there, and those long lines. That's been a concern as Donald Trump has warned of fraud and has been a little coy about whether he would concede if he lost. Here's what his son Eric Trump had to say about that issue to Maria Bartiromo this morning here on Fox Business.
He's always said absolutely, so long as there's no games, no funny business, no anything else. And listen, no question about it. I really believe we're going to win tonight. I mean, I feel something that's out there right now. I mean, I just feel something that's out there, and I think we're going to take a lot of states that have never gone Republican before. You're seeing that. I mean,
all right, the one thing everyone can probably agree on right now is it is going to be a long fight to the finish line. Joining me right now with her perspective on all of it, pollster Lee Carter, along with Ned Ryan, the CEO of American Majority, Jonah Goldberg from the National Review, and progressive radio host Chris Hahn. Good to see all you guys. Lee, I'm going to start with you. Walk me through what you see as perhaps the most viable path for Donald Trump tonight, starting in Florida.
It is a tough path. First of all, he has to win every single state that's been called Republican or leaning Republican. That's not necessarily guaranteed. Then he has to win all 4 swing states. He needs to win Florida. He has to win North Carolina. He has to win Ohio, and he has to win New Hampshire. And then he needs to take one more state and turn it blue. It is not an easy path to victory for Donald Trump, but it is possible. We've seen record voter turnout. That blows up the model, by the way, because all polls are done of likely voters. Likely voters are voters that voted before, and we know we're going to have a lot more than that. So then we have to look at who is voting. We talked earlier about the Hispanic vote in Florida, but we're also seeing record number of working class people going out in Michigan. He could turn Michigan. If he turns Michigan, very viable path. There's also talk that he might be able to turn Pennsylvania. That's a neck-and-neck race. So
wow, I mean, that would be amazing. I've said from the beginning, Jonah, that one of the things that has made this election so different is that Americans are so frustrated, frankly, with their economic lot in life. The last 8 years have been pretty meaningless in terms of growth. The last 20 years, when you look at wages adjusted for inflation, they've been meaningless in terms of growth. And so parties, as a result, Jonah, they have become increasingly meaningless. If Donald Trump were to take a Michigan or Pennsylvania, does that show you that the parties as we currently know them have effectively dissolved?
I don't know if it shows that they've effectively dissolved. I do think you're absolutely right that the parties, there's a pretty serious disconnect between the party apparatus and the voters. And you can see if Trump is successful in flipping Pennsylvania and Michigan, or either of them, you can see that we're going to have a whole new electoral college map going forward, where the Rust Belt states start turning red, the sort of high-tech states stay blue, and the old sort of left-right conservative liberal thing becomes less important, and the populist and racial lines become more important. I'm not sure it's going to happen, but if it does, you would say that this was the bellwether for it.
Ned, you know, we saw Hillary Clinton there in Philadelphia. 30,000 people showed up. I don't know how much was for her or whether it was just the idea that you got a ticket to a free concert. I mean, you had everyone there. I mean, you had the Obamas, you had Bill Clinton, Hillary herself, but Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen, you name it. You know, and there's part of me that wonders, you know, is this indicative of more of the free stuff? You get a free concert, more free stuff if Hillary Clinton comes to office. And how is the country and some of those states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio going to react to that?
Boy, I got to tell you, I mean, please, let's see what the results are tonight before we start talking about a Hillary presidency, because I think it would be devastating on a variety of fronts. You know, but the thing that I've thought about with Hillary as president, again, you're dealing with judges, you're dealing with Obamacare, you're dealing with, you know, free college. She's listening to her speech last night in Philadelphia. I'm thinking, dear God, who's going to fund this?
Right, right.
It's people.
It's more than free concerts. It's free college. Right. It's
exactly. I mean, you start adding up
it's all kinds of freebies.
You start adding up the dollar bills on this, and I looked at my wife the other day and said, you do realize our significant tax bill would go up even more so under a Hillary presidency. And again, that's not how you bring prosperity back to this country. So,
right. So, you know, I know. So you're hoping that you see Donald Trump there win, and that some of these conservative economic principles are followed over the next 4 years. But let me go to Chris Hahn for a moment, because Chris, you know, assuming you know the Senate stays in the hands of the Republicans, assuming that, you know, the Congress stays in the hands of the Republicans, aren't we just going to have 4 more years of basically nothing?
Well, I'm hopeful that the Senate will turn blue tonight, but in case it doesn't, I think there are enough people in the Senate that will want to work with the president and try to get things done. I also think that there's going to be a renewed effort in the House, particularly by Speaker Ryan and some other people who want to actually get things accomplished, to kind of push aside the more fringe elements of their party, work with Democrats who are willing to meet in the middle, and get things accomplished. Hillary Clinton was very successful.
Do you think Speaker Ryan stays? Because there were those rumors floating out there that he might actually step down regardless of what happens.
I don't think he's going to step down. I think he's going to have a bit of a fight on his hand. But like I said, I do think there's a good number of Republicans in the House of Representatives that want to get things done. And there are only about 40 or so that really want to stick to their ideological guns. And I think that if Speaker Ryan is true to his nature and wants to actually get things done, he'll reach across the aisle. He'll bring some Democrats along with him. That will secure his leadership. That will actually get things done going forward. Americans do not want to see a Congress like the one they've had.
We still got 4 hours and 45 minutes before the first polls close. We're going to be watching it very carefully. I'm going to be joining Neil Cavuto in his special coverage tonight. That starts at 8 p.m., everyone. So make sure you keep it right here on Fox Business. Thank you so much to all of you, Jonah, Lee, Ned, and Chris. All right, Donald Trump. He's got the momentum, without a doubt, in this final stretch. But is this momentum going to be enough to bring out Republicans who've been on the fence about him? Are they going to come to the polls today? We are asking Michael Reagan, son of the late, great President Reagan. He was a Trump holdout, and now he's backing him. That's next. All right, Donald Trump, everyone, coming into this final day of the election with all the momentum. But is that momentum enough to bring Republicans who had been on the fence about Donald Trump? Will it bring them out to the polls? Joining me right now with some thoughts on all of it, Michael Reagan, the son of the late, great President Reagan, and author of the book, Lessons My Father Taught Me. Michael, so good to have you here on set. Welcome from California. Why are you voting for Donald Trump?
I voted.
You did, and you voted for Trump.
Absentee. Voted absentee.
What is it about him as a candidate that caused you? Because I know there were things about him you didn't like.
Anybody who follows me at Reagan World on my Twitter account knows how I feel about Donald Trump. Right. And I said, you know, you don't have to support him to vote for him. because I would rather have a Donald Trump there than a Hillary Clinton there, because we know the baggage that she's going to bring with her, you know, to 4 years of the presidency of the United States of America. And that concerns me greatly. It should concern every American. Donald Trump doesn't bring that baggage with him. And I think